Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign on right now?
Did your boss, Donald Trump?
You can easily extend
the ACA
Did your
boss,
now.
Donald Trump,
He's
give
not
you
my
permission?
boss.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. And by the way,
So let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to
Let me
shut
ask
the
you a
government
question.
down?
You
Why
know
did
I
you vote to
didn't-
shut
Let
it
me
down?
ask you a question.
For years, you always
Well,
lectured about
making-
how we need to
you're
keep the
making
government open.
You're making a show of this to
No,
make
it's
yourself
sad.
relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on to
You're
this.
embarrassing yourself
You could
right
sign
now.
on to this. The only
You're
embarrassment
chasing
here is
clout.
you.
In today's video, Hakeem Jeffries had no real answers when pressed about the government shutdown during his appearance on CNBC. He attempted to spin the narrative, but the entire CNBC panel wasn't buying it. They pushed back hard, pointing out what everybody already knows. Democrats like Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, they aren't doing what's best for the American people. They're doing what's best for themselves. And so we're breaking down the interview, exposing the talking points, the deflections, and how the media's usual softball treatment, it didn't save them this time. And make sure you stay tuned to the end. I'll share a breaking update as Trump drops a bombshell on the troops.
Senator, but we're talking about a continuing resolution to keep the government open and then going into the normal appropriations process. I mean, there was an election, and the Republicans were put in a position where they were able to pass the big, beautiful bill, or you call it the big, ugly bill. To then say, we don't like any of that, so we're going to shut down the government until you take back all the things that you duly passed through legislation. If Republicans had tried to do that to the Inflation Reduction Act or any of the acts that Biden and that administration have passed, if they said we're going to shut down the government because we don't like any of those things you did, we're going to not pay our military, we're going to, not allow the government to reopen until you do what we want. After an election where the American people put Democrats in power, you'd be going crazy. You'd be going crazy about using a shutdown of the government with a continuing resolution to get what you want just because you don't like what the Republicans did. It's not how it works. It's bad. It's bad precedent, and it's just clear. And you're talking about the House. You've already passed this. The Senate is who we're talking about, and they have a bill which will reopen the government right now with 5 more Democrats.
Yeah, even the CNBC host isn't buying what Hakeem Jeffries is selling. He's trying to spin the government shutdown narrative, but the hypocrisy is too obvious to hide. And he's being called out for it because they're making it clear what this is really about. Selfish motives. We all know that if this situation was reversed and Republicans were the ones responsible for the government shutdown, the nearly 1.4 million workers going without pay, Democrats would absolutely lose their minds. And the biased media, they'd be having a field day, running the same talking points over and over again. Instead, what we're seeing now are excuses, deflections, and the same old political spin from the very people who claim to stand for the people.
What is bad precedent is the Republican refusal to engage in bipartisan negotiations. What is bad precedent is the Republicans embarking on a my way or the highway approach from the very beginning of this Congress. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Joe, you're exactly right. So if the government shuts down, they've made the decision to shut the government down. And they can reopen it right now if they chose to, with a rule change in the Senate.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, and why Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats come off as so selfish. Please believe he knows suggesting that Republicans could end the shutdown by deploying the so-called nuclear option to break this funding stalemate. He knows what that would lead to. It also could set a dangerous precedent that bipartisan cooperation is no longer necessary. And the next time Republicans are in the minority, Jeffries and the Democrats can point back and say, hey, well, the GOP did it first. He's trying to spin it as if Republicans are just sitting idly by, but the truth is they're doing what's always been done in these situations, keeping the process bipartisan, respecting procedures, and looking for compromise. The same way Republicans did when Biden was in office, even with all the bad legislation that he pushed through. But once again, just like during Trump's first term, when Democrats refused to negotiate and caused the shutdown back then too, we're seeing the same pattern. This is who the Democrat Party really is. More focused on power plays than progress.
But I just explained it. The reality is they want to keep the government closed. Cruelty from the very beginning of this administration has been the point. And the responsible thing to do is to sit down and negotiate a bipartisan path forward to address a very
you do
real healthcare crisis that's upon us right now. Open enrollment
Minority Leader,
starts
can you
on
do that?
November
Can you do
1st.
those negotiations while the government is reopened? I think that's the offer that's been on the table.
Exactly. They could, they just don't want to. And that's the part that Jeffries and the Democrats keep on ignoring, the human cost. They're so focused on political optics that they completely lost sight of the people who's really being affected by this government shutdown. It's not just numbers on the screen. There are real families out there, including the men and the women who put their lives on the line for this country. Right now, some of our troops are having to visit food banks just to make sure that their families can eat.
Military members and their families in line because of this government shutdown. We're in day 9 of it, and they're here for a food pantry. There's all sorts of food that is available, and I spoke with some military member spouses, and I spoke with some department heads here at the ASYMCA on why this is so important. What's the difference in the amount of people that you've seen from today to previously?
So when we first started coming, there definitely wasn't this amount of people. It was a lot, but it wasn't this amount to where it wrapped around the building. But lately it has been a lot. Like we were here last week and we were in line for like 2 hours.
In a normal week, we usually run out of food about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Last week, we ran out of food about 10:30.
I want you to think about that. The people who defend this nation are now struggling to feed their family because Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are more concerned about losing power within their own party to the fringe far left. And it's not even a secret. Here's Andrew Cuomo speaking about those differences, and as he puts it, quote, the civil war that's going on within the Democrat Party.
He's a democratic socialist. I'm a Democrat. Well, what is the difference there? And it is night and day. What's really happening is there's a civil war within the Democratic Party going on. And the Democratic Party is looking for its identity. And there are two factions. You have the Democratic Socialists, and then you have the Democrats, right? I'm a Democrat. My father was a Democrat. I worked for Bill Clinton. He is a Democratic Socialist. He is not a Democrat, right? He called President Obama evil and a liar. He did not support Kamala Harris against Trump because she wasn't progressive enough. They have a very extreme view that they're pursuing, which is different than the Democratic Party.
We did hear the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, talking about how, look, he passed a clean CR. There's not really much for him to politic in because there's nothing to take out. Any Republican pork that they pushed into this to take out of it to offer as a way of getting around this. Can you reopen the government and have these conversations if there's a willing party on the other side, which it sounds like there is if you talk to some of the Republicans who see this as an issue in their district as well?
Well, certainly Marjorie Taylor Greene has made clear that it's a very real issue. It's an issue that Republicans have ignored throughout this year, and it's an issue that needs to be addressed right now. Mike Johnson has made the representation, including at that White House meeting that we had last week, after Chuck Schumer and I reached out to demand that we have the conversation. Unfortunately, it took place literally a day before the government shut down because Republicans have refused to engage in bipartisan negotiations or even conversations up until this point. And our view is, what Johnson said is that health care is an irrelevant extraneous issue. No, it's not an extraneous issue, it's a central issue. And we need to deal with it right now. And we're willing to sit down and have that conversation. We want to reopen the government.
But you're not going to fix this. It's a negotiation that is going to take a very long time. Employees, including the military, are not going to get paid on October 15th. Can you have these negotiations?
And that's an issue that, we believe should, and that's an issue that we believe should be dealt with respect to our troops in a bipartisan way, in a manner that it has been dealt with in the past in previous shutdowns,
in the past, you've had appropriations
in
bills that had
October
already
of
been
2013.
For the right.
No, I'm talking about in October of 2013, where as a standalone issue, the military pay for our families and men and women in uniform was dealt with. That's what I'm making reference to. So who should get paid besides the military? You think the TSA agents should get paid? Where does the line stop for who gets paid and who doesn't? The law requires everyone to be paid, and unfortunately, Donald Trump has once again suggested that no one is going to get paid.
You see, the Democrat Party loves to brand itself as the party of unity and democracy, but every time things don't go their way, you see exactly who they really are. The party of, if we can't push our agenda, then we don't really care who we hurt. And now, the mask is slipping again. The host saw right through Jeffries' talking points, because when the excuses stop working, the fallback is always the same. Blame Trump. But he can't hide from the truth or the facts of this situation. The reality is simple. You lost. Their policies failed, their strategy backfired, and now they're upset that the political landscape has shifted against them.
I think this is very personal for the American people who are at risk of literally experiencing thousands of dollars in a potential increase in their health insurance in a manner that will bankrupt many folks or deprive them of access to health care. We're talking about a married couple of two individuals, for instance, that makes $88,000 a year, currently receives tax credits from the Affordable Care Act and pays about $8,000 a year. Now, this is a situation that's already unaffordable, but their premiums may actually triple to $24,000 a year, unable to afford that. That's what we're talking about. And this is a very real thing that's happening right now.
We're not going to fix Obamacare or the AC. There's a lot of issues that are not just the expiration of the subsidies that are causing a lot of these problems. And you're not going to be able to fix it and negotiate it between now and reopening the government. You got to reopen the government first and then get. We
made very clear at the beginning of September that we will find a bipartisan path forward to keep the government open and enact a spending agreement that meets the needs of the American people. What we also said is we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. But it was already supported the continuing resolution. This wasn't an 11th hour position. It was a position that we articulated early on, and unfortunately, Republicans chose a my way or the highway approach that they are continuing right now in the Senate.
Initially, this is the same funding that was already passed by both houses.
I explained that Democrats in the House strongly opposed this spending bill in March because it hurt the American people.
Right. The host just said the quiet part out loud. You're not going to fix Obamacare. Those subsidies, which were supposed to be a temporary solution, aren't solving the real problem. And at this point, everyone except Democrats understands it. The so-called Affordable Care Act hasn't made health insurance affordable at all. And the irony of this entire situation is, the more that Jeffries and the Democrats continue to argue that these subsidies are necessary, the more they're proving basically that Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, was an absolute failure. And we can dig deeper into that another time, but the bottom line is this: that issue isn't getting fixed right now. And Jeffries knows that. He knows the numbers. He knows the reality, but he's pretending that this is about doing what's best for the American people. But it's not. It's about protecting his own position and whatever influence he still has remaining. And while Democrats have shown that they don't care if the troops who fight for this country go without pay, Trump has shown that he does care. Here's that breaking news update I promised you guys.
All right, welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall. You're watching Live Now, a live look at the White House, the time in the nation's capital, 7:52. Getting some news in from the Pentagon and from the White House. We're hearing today that President Trump is directing Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth to use all available funds to get our troops paid on October 15th as the government shutdown nears its third week. After the Senate failed to approve spending legislation this week, military members were preparing to go without their paychecks on Wednesday for the first time in U.S. history. To scrounge up enough money to pay the troops, the Pentagon is tapping into its research and development accounts to use funding that Congress made available for 2 years, according to a OMB official. Specifically, about $8 billion is being shifted from accounts that fund military research, development, testing, and evaluation efforts, according to two people familiar with the plan who spoke with Reuters. President Trump posting about this on Truth Social earlier today. It reads as follows. Chuck Schumer recently said, quote, "Every day gets better during their radical left shutdown. I disagree. If nothing is done because of leader Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, our brave troops will miss the paychecks they are rightfully due on October 15th. That is why I am using my authority as Commander-in-Chief to direct our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to use all available funds to get our troops paid on October 15th. We have identified funds to do this, and Secretary Hegseth will use them to pay our troops. I will not allow the Democrats to hold our military and the entire security of our nation hostage with their dangerous government shutdown. The radical left Democrats should open the government, the president says, and then we can work together to address health care and many other things that they want to destroy. Thank you for your attention to this matter, he says.
The only thing that the Democrats have proven for a fact, time and time again, is that they rather see this country in turmoil and chaos than peace and prosperity, if that peace came through the leadership of Donald Trump. Their obsession with opposing him has blinded them to basic logic and exposed what's really driving them. It's no longer about what's best for the country. It's about making sure Trump fails, even if that means the American people suffer in the process. But here's the thing. More and more Americans are waking up, and they're realizing the real threat to progress isn't one man. It's the party that's willing to destroy the country just to stop them. But guys, let me know what you think about the government shutdown. Leave your questions and thoughts down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, you enjoy any part of the content, smash the like. For more, subscribe to the channel. But make sure you stick around for the next video where even Stephen A. Smith sees the incompetence when it comes to the Democrat Party and their inability to just do the basics of their job. And he even has to call it out as he rips into Jasmine Crockett. So make sure you stick around for that. And I'll see you next time.